Guess what? It's time to talk about more Cyberpunk news and updates. We're going to dive into this article right here about how Cyberpunk is way off schedule for a No Man's Sky style comeback. So how behind is CD Projekt Red compared to Hello Games when they were trying to revive No Man's Sky? But tomorrow is apparently going to be an extremely important date for Cyberpunk's future. I'll explain why in just a moment. Plus, we're going to be diving into this article right here about Cyberpunk DLC. It may have a hard time addressing the elephants in the room. We'll dive into that one. And a lot of you guys are wondering what happened to patch 1.3. Where in the world is it? I'm going to be touching base about that one as well because there were rumors that it should have been releasing perhaps in late July, but obviously that is not going to be happening. But let's dive into this right now. Hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good, and yes, welcome back to Night City. Let's dive into this article from Forbes talking about how Cyberpunk is way off the revival schedule that No Man's Sky was on. So let's dive into this right here. It goes on to say the following: the idea that it would be possible for Cyberpunk to pull No Man's Sky style turnaround and fix itself and fulfill its broken promises by CD Projekt Red putting its head down and delivering results. This was one explanation why CD Projekt Red was so quiet, though the longer this goes, the more we can see that Cyberpunk is actually pretty far off schedule for something like this happening. And you know, the only person that's been really vocal from CD Projekt Red, it's been really interesting, is of course Sasko. We'll talk about more what he's had to say more recently. But yeah, otherwise they have been so quiet. It's been ridiculous. But let's keep going here. Now it says this: I too remember a long period of silence from Hello Games before they started rolling out significant, substantive, free updates to fix and add to the game, but the wait may not be as long as you were remembering, and it's certainly a lot shorter than what we've seen from Cyberpunk here. This is really interesting because I felt like it was an eternity when Hello Games, went completely silent, but it took a lot shorter of a time for them to start releasing major updates. Check this out right here. It says the first major addition, the Foundation update, which brought base building and other features, arrived in November 2016. 4 months later. Of course, No Man's Sky was released in August 2016, if you guys don't remember. So it only took them 4 months to release their big first update. Furthermore, it says this: the second major addition, the Pathfinder update, which added vehicles, arrived in March 2017, 8 months later. That's two pretty significant updates to No Man's Sky so far. And then we've got Cyberpunk 2077 right here. It says Cyberpunk debuted in December 2020 and it has now been 8 months since release, but its only additions have been hot fixes and patches that are 99% bug fixes and performance improvements. No substantive structural changes have been made to the game, nor significant content additions. There is still no release date for DLC or even any previews for it. That is just, to me, absolutely insane. Now, that could change very quickly because of course a lot of you guys are talking about this right here. Patch 1.3 today, Dev talked about it. It says this: last Sunday live, one of the top Cyberpunk and CD developers made a joke saying that the patch would be released in July, will be today or tomorrow. He said something like, if NPC blinks its eyes, the patch will be released in July, and also said that his next live stream he would show new news. That's going to be happening within the next 24 hours apparently. So that's what I was referring to. In the next 24 hours, things could absolutely change. Sasko has been doing these live streams, as many of you may remember. If you see right here, him actually like giving some sort of tease that perhaps within the next month we would be seeing free DLC starting to roll out. So tomorrow he's going to be doing a new live stream where he says that he's hopeful to have a surprise for us. That's all we know so far. So hopefully we start seeing the changes happening, or at least announcements to specifics. That's what we really also want, is an actual laid out specific roadmap, at least in the short term, as what in the world is going on with Cyberpunk 2077. Now let's go back to the Forbes article right here. They go on to say this: in short, No Man's Sky, for all that downtime it needed to fix itself, already had 2 major additions out by now, and Cyberpunk 2077's free DLC is going to be fairly minor, mostly new cosmetics or weapons with a few new side missions. Major expansions will not come out until next year at the earliest. I've already spoken previously about how Cyberpunk is behind The Witcher 3, which released its free DLC almost immediately despite initial technical problems that the game had, and by this point had already released its huge Heart of Stone expansion. So the one thing The Witcher 3 did not have to contend with was trying to impress Sony and trying to get the game back on the storefront. That's another whole matter that, of course, CD Projekt Red had to go through. And then during the time of Witcher 3, they didn't have to deal with a hacking issue. So a lot of things happened with Cyberpunk, which is so specific and perhaps kind of somewhat explains what's going on with the lack of content right now. But again, hopefully, crossing our fingers, that begins to change here shortly. Now, let's talk about the actual DLC content that could be appearing. This is an interesting article right here. It says, Cyberpunk DLC may have a hard time addressing the elephants in the room. It says, with the eventual release of premium paid DLC for Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red undoubtedly faces its next big hurdle with the game. And this dives into talking about this right here. First of all, they have this to contend with. Cyberpunk DLC marketing has to be just right, because you guys know that they've made mistakes in the past with their marketing. Of course, they got to be very, very careful not to overhype this sort of thing. And even Paolo Sasco, of course, he's the lead quest designer on Cyberpunk, has stated how worried they've been about overhyping this upcoming DLC, the free DLC and things like that. They're being extra cautious, I guess you would say, and that's another thing that could explain the silence from them. Now, also, you have to remember this right here, the narrative dead end of Cyberpunk. If they do decide to continue with V, they're going to have to contend with some problems with the actual narrative storyline that happened in the base game. How will they explain V going off and undertaking some other sort of big mission, while the fact is his main mission is just to survive? So you can kind of see how that contradicts the actual vanilla game's story. That's going to be interesting. Or they could perhaps just introduce an entirely new character into the plot line. We'll have to see. Let me know if that's something you guys would actually like to see, by the way. A brand new character introduced into the Cyberpunk universe. Or do you think they should just keep going with V? Sound off. All right, so let's keep going here. This is an interesting one right here. It seems like a lot of you actually quite like Cyberpunk 2077. So check out this article right here, or not article, it's from a Reddit post. Tie-Dyed says, just want to get this off my chest. I really enjoy this game, even though I understand the hate and issues with it. 2,180 upvotes, sitting at one of the top upvoted posts right now on Reddit. It says, not excusing the crappy and shady things CD Projekt Red did while marketing and talking about it, because that's inexcusable, and the people who caused it should definitely be held accountable. I'm very upset that it's taken months for the game to run even serviceable on my base PS4, and I wish they hadn't rushed it and promised so many things that wouldn't be held up. That being said, I love most things about the game. I think if it ran like any other game, it might be a near perfect game for myself. The world is perfect. I love the story. The missions are fun. The guns are rad. The different playstyles are insanely fun, and I just have an overall wonderful time playing. I would love to see more stories told in this world if they took the time and care for it, that is. LOL. I haven't finished the main story, and I just recently had to start fresh again. So no story spoiler, please. I just wanted to express my enjoyment of the game, since I don't know if it's an uncommon viewpoint on it. So it seems like a lot of people actually enjoy the game despite the issues, you know, and that's why I think a lot of people are waiting around and have the game still perhaps installed on their hard drive, just hoping and praying for some sort of big update that will be mind-blowing and change the game forever. It's interesting, though, there is a recent Cyberpunk game that I did want to mention that I have fallen in love with, and you guys probably have seen my recent video about that one. It is called Descent. It is a top-down isometric type perspective. Some of you may roll your eyes about that and be like, that doesn't interest me, but you know, I was the same way initially until I really played this one, and I honestly would love to see this for Cyberpunk 2077, where they really flesh it out a lot more with a lot more detail. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things in Cyberpunk they have done right in terms of the artistic value, the city itself. Absolutely beautiful, but you know, I feel like the details in the actual crowd environments aren't there. Of course, a lot of us would agree with that. I just want them to get to a certain level with polish, of course, that we're seeing here in the Ascent. I personally really have enjoyed this game, and there's been some articles that also relate this. This one right here says the Ascent makes good on Cyberpunk's promises. In fact, there's also a surgeon in the Ascent that you can actually go to here as you explore the world, and you can talk to him, and he can change up your look, your character, your gender, everything. Add tattoos, all sorts of cool stuff here. This, of course, was expected to be in Cyberpunk. I'm crossing my fingers that it makes its way into Cyberpunk eventually. And then, of course, you have the density of the crowds in the Ascent. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a top-down game. They could pull this off and a lot more stuff with a top-down game, but still, this is what I would love to see in Cyberpunk 2077, this type of density with the crowds. This is what we were supposed to see. So it was cool to see, at least in the Ascent. But anyway, it seems like a lot of you guys are also excited for this one right here. Check it out. Excited for this. And this is the Cyberpunk Edge Runners series that is, of course, coming to Netflix in 2022. So that's something we do have to look forward to in Cyberpunk 2077 in that universe. And, you know, the Ascent, in my opinion, and perhaps Cyberpunk's future does show that people are still very, very interested in the Cyberpunk universe, which I think is very cool to see. But anyway, let's keep going. We're going to go over your top comments from my previous Cyberpunk video. Let's do this. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So my most recent video was called The Following. So Cyberpunk 2077, something is about to happen. New DLC and content was just teased big time. As you can see, Palace Hasco here asked this guy to blink if there was going to be DLC coming up here in the next month, I believe it was, and guess what? He blinked. So, and he also did say that he hopes to have some really surprising stuff on his next stream, which is going to be happening within the next 24 hours. But let's see what you guys had to say about this one, shall we? So first of all, we have here from Keep. He says, I believe it when I see it. New weapons and quests isn't not the thing that that's needed. A more lively world, real NPCs with brain, police and physics are needed. So yeah, that same assessment of people saying that they will believe it when I see it. I know how you guys feel. I absolutely get how you guys feel with that one for sure. Now, also we have this one from Natty Sars Flex, who says, outside of New Game Plus, which hopefully makes the game much more challenging, which with better enemy AI, none of that leaked DLC sounds exciting at all to me. The game needs dynamic events and some form of activity that can better take advantage of the city. Absolutely, you know, really utilize the city to its fullest. That's personally why I like mobster type games in the city, because you're taking over territory and you're really utilizing that space. I was hoping that there would be some elements of some sort of underground mob, more so in this game, simply because I think it would exist big time in the Cyberpunk universe. But anyway, Jonathan goes on to say the following. He says, character customization mid-game is the thing I want the most, changing hair, skin, different private parts, etc. It's the future, so it should be possible. Damn it, a lot of people agree with that one. Derek says, what if they do a Watch Dogs Legion where the DLC is what the main game should have been? Yeah, you know what? I heard the Watch Dogs Legion DLC was very, very successful. So yeah, that's another idea. That's why I wonder if they should even like connect to the storyline that's in the vanilla game, you know? Perhaps they should undertake an entirely new story arc or something like that. Let me know if you guys agree with me or not. Now, Cashman What says, don't worry, they'll release it when it's ready. That sounds sarcastic, man. Juice War 3 says DLC is going to be the full game. Yeah, pretty much. Sugar Coated Cyanide says third person needs to be official. So a lot of you still are caught up on the fact that the game is lacking that third person view. It would really be cool if they could just include that in there. During the alpha testing, they actually did have a third person view. It's a shame it didn't make it into the game. I mean, look at Bethesda, look what they do with Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. They give options. Give your players options. That's my opinion. Would absolutely love to see my customized character in Cyberpunk. But there you have it. The latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. And I am going to have a lot more coverage for you guys about upcoming games. Let me know again what you guys would like to see from me. Sound off in the comments. Don't be shy. I have some ideas, but thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.